We've just had the budget. Do you feel that Britain now has a strong plan for growth?
So one of my real frustrations with this Labour government is the disconnect between what they're saying and what they're doing. And they keep saying, "Oh, this is about growth." Remember when they first stepped in onto the government benches after the elections, it's all going to be about growth. And they have set about doing the opposite of everything that you need for growth. They increased the taxes on businesses employing people, which is not going to help growth. They've increased the taxes on businesses directly. Again, not going to improve growth. We're now seeing with the net migration figures that a lot of the young, talented people that would really drive growth in the British economy are being pushed out of the country through the tax system. Now, I'm very pleased that the other half of the equation, the immigration figures, they have come down dramatically because of the visa changes that I put in place, which Labour opposed at the time. But the point is, they are talking the talk, but they're not walking the walk. And what we're seeing is growth forecasts have gone down. They are the OBR have said they're going to go down every year through this Parliament, and the British people are suffering. So no, I do not believe the government has a plan for growth. I don't think they have a plan at all, and that's the problem. They turned up with no plan. Didn't have a plan for borders, didn't have a plan for defence, didn't have a plan for local government, didn't have a plan to build those houses, didn't have a plan for growth, didn't have a plan for the economy, and we're all living with the consequences.
Actually, do you think the Chancellor has broken her manifesto pledge?
Yeah, by her own definition. So you don't have to believe me. Like, I'm a Conservative, and people might say, "Oh, he would say that, wouldn't he?" But let's take her words. Last year, when asked specifically about freezing thresholds for tax, national insurance, etc., she said that she wasn't going to do it because that would basically be a tax on working people, like they promised they wouldn't put in place. Yesterday, she basically announced she was going to freeze these thresholds, which was by her own definition, as well as mine, as well as Kemi's, as well as Mel's, as well as the IFS, as well as the OBR, as well as everybody else's definition, a tax on working people. And this is a proper kind of, read my lips, no new taxes moment. This is not just a de facto breach of the manifesto commitments, it is in every definition a direct breach of their manifesto commitments, and the British people are not daft, and they feel this, and they'll feel it worse by the time of the general election, and I have absolutely no doubt they will punish Labour at the ballot box when they are given the opportunity to do so.
Do you think the Chancellor should resign, having breached the manifesto in that way then?
Well, the really partisan bit of me thinks the longer she stays around, the better, because she's doing so much damage to the credibility of the Labour Party. But the bottom line is, I can't see how she's got any credibility. The interviews that she did last night and this morning, and these are interviews conducted not by political friends and allies of the Conservative Party. These are interviews conducted by Beth Rigby at Sky, and I know Beth, and she's ferocious, and I've been at the receiving end of her interrogations pretty regularly, and she's basically said to the Chancellor, no one is going to believe a word you say. And when you're the Chancellor and no one believes the word that you say, that includes the bond markets, that includes businesses, that includes international investors, that includes entrepreneurs who are thinking about their future. And if you say to an investment, a potential investor in the UK, come and invest in the UK, because I promise you that I am not going to whack you with a whole load of stealth taxes or suddenly rearrange the rule book and disadvantage you. If you don't believe them, you're not going to invest. And this is unfortunately the byproduct of a Chancellor who has lost all credibility, all political credibility and all economic credibility. and that's hurting Britain. And that's what makes me so angry. It's not the dishonesty, that's a bit frustrating. It's the fact that when you're the Chancellor, it has a direct, pretty much immediate and detrimental effect on international business confidence in the UK, just at a time when we need to be fighting and competing internationally.
Has Labour's impact been worse than you feared when they won the election last year?
Labour have been considerably worse than I was expecting. And I find that hard to believe, because I must admit, I wasn't expecting much. I thought, and I said so when I was Home Secretary, and I confronted Yvette Cooper when she was the Shadow Home Secretary, and I said, you don't have a plan. You think that just by being not the Conservatives, that you can make these really challenging situations go away. And I knew she didn't have a plan, I knew the government didn't have a plan, and I knew it was going to be bad. I had no idea that we would see the worst small boat arrivals figures ever. I couldn't believe that they didn't have some secret deal up their sleeve. I assumed they'd already perhaps cut a deal with France or something like that. They had something up their sleeve. And I sat there watching and waiting, and nothing happened. The figures just kept getting worse. The number of people that crossing the Channel kept going up. The only bit of good news in Home Affairs was, as I say, because of the visa changes that I put in place, and other than that, there was nothing. I then looked in my old portfolio in Foreign Affairs, nothing. I looked at their plan for the defence of the nation, nothing. In my new portfolio, their plan to actually get these 1.5 million houses built, nothing. Plan to support local government and really empower the people who are closest to the residents, nothing. And I thought there'd be I thought they'd be wrong, but I at least thought they would have a plan. And it takes a special kind of incompetence to turn up, not just without. As I say, if they had a bad plan, I'd be a bit frustrated. To have no plan at all, it's like criminal negligence, totally unacceptable. And we are all suffering. And the thing that really frustrates me, really frustrates me, the millionaires, the billionaires, these people, they can buy their way out of the problem. They are going to other countries. They can take action to ensure that their lives are secure and safe and comfortable.
Yeah.
The people who can't do that are the hard-working people who cannot just relocate, who cannot find more efficient investment vehicles to make sure they're not being taxed. Hundreds of thousands of people are going to be paying income tax because of the freezing of thresholds that under us wouldn't have paid.
Yeah.
And these are not wealthy people; they're hard-working people, the scrimpers and the savers, and the people that wake up whilst it's still dark when the alarm clock goes off and do all the right thing. They are being punished because of this government's ineptitude, and it is absolutely infuriating. And that is why yesterday, and people were saying, Kemi was really punchy at the dispatch box. Now, she absolutely was, and rightly so. But I've spoken with Kemi both before and after. She's genuinely angry at what Rachel Reeves is doing to the country that she loves. And I think that's what came across at the dispatch box. A load of people saying, wow, I mean, she certainly had her cornflakes that morning. And it's because she, like the rest of us, just so angry with what the Labour government is doing to this country.
Do you think the election is winnable for the Conservatives?
Yeah. Look, absolutely. And this is not about being complacent, and there's really hard work to do. But at the last general election, the narrative was, that's it, the Conservative Party is over, never coming back. Fast forward 6 months, and the narrative was, well, the Labour Party are collapsing, but the Tories aren't in play, no point looking at them. Fast forward 6 months, people are like, oh, actually, the Tories seem to be getting their act together. And now what we're seeing is Labour have lost all credibility. They have lost the next general election. That is baked in. There is no way they're coming back from this. The Lib Dems aren't moving in the polls at all. The Greens are, giving a high octane diet of economic nonsense. But you know what? For a certain type of person, that is quite appealing, and they're stealing a load of votes. And what we're now seeing, of course, is what I thought would always happen: is once Reform, and Nigel Farage in particular, actually started getting the scrutiny that the other political parties have got to get, they are falling apart because they don't have the answer. They're just the same as the Greens. It's the flip side of the coin. It is economically incoherent. It is totally undeliverable. It may be superficially attractive, but it's just not real. Which then means that gently, not overnight, but gently, people are looking at us again, and what they're seeing is a party that is serious about balancing the books, the only party that's serious about balancing the books, the party that is being honest with people, saying if you want to cut tax, and we have got to cut tax, you have got to cut spending. There's no point in pretending that this magic money tree really exists. And that discipline is the only party that's having that difficult conversation is us. And at the moment, we're seeing people starting to listen and to engage. Your readers, the people that are going to be looking at this interview. I know we haven't won them over yet. Kemi knows, Mel knows we haven't won them over yet. But they're starting to listen to us again. And that is our route back. It is going to be tough. There are no quick fixes. There are no shortcuts. And we are not going to do it by lying to the British people about the tough choices that are going to be made. But I suspect when they look at the team that Kemi's built around her, when they look at our full set of policies, when they recognise that we are literally the only party that is going to balance the books, that they will see that we are the right choice for the country. Now, look, it's incredibly hard work. It's incredibly hard work. But look, as we saw yesterday at the dispatch box, Kemi is well up for it. The team, the shadow cabinet team, the shadow ministerial team, our backbenchers as a team are really, really up for it. So just as all the other political parties are starting to fragment and pull themselves apart, we're seeing the Conservatives coming back to the discipline that is the hallmark of our party when we're at our best, which is there's a job of work to do. The country needs us, and we better get our act together because there's work to be done.
Do you think the party can avoid panicking if the May elections are another difficult experience?
Well, the May elections are going to be hard. The May elections are going to be very, very, very hard for a whole load of reasons. Firstly, because I was looking at some figures today, buried in the small print that even the OBR leak didn't put on the front pages in the morning is a whole load of additional financial pressure, unfunded financial pressure that central government is dumping on local government. That's going to be really, really, really hard. For a number of local councils that are Conservative held, well run, have kept their council tax low, money's being stolen from them by the government, and it's going to be used to subsidise wasteful Labour-run councils, and that's going to put huge pressure on Conservative-run councils. So they're going to be tough, but panic is never the right answer. In business and military and sport and in politics, if one of your options is to panic, don't take that option because it will not work. It's going to be tough. We know it's going to be tough, but also we know that we mustn't be distracted. Mel, working with all of us around the shadow cabinet table, has identified £47 billion worth of savings, which means that we uniquely as a party got a plan to drive down the deficit, reduce that cost of borrowing, regain this country's credibility in international bond markets and investment markets, and start taking some of the tax pressure away from people and from businesses to try and get the economy moving again. A difficult night at the local government elections must not blow us off course from that. It is the right answer. We're the only party putting that forward as a credible option. It's the only credible option in the field. And look, it will be tough, but tough is what you have to deal with in order to be in a position to start repairing the country. That's what we need to do.
And as well as economic security, there's whispers of grave concern in the military about whether the 3% target is actually hittable with the financial figures the OBR has put out. I mean, how big a worry is it that Britain is actually at a juncture where we're looking at not just economic decline and stagnation, but potentially weakness as a time of international danger?
Well, this goes to the heart of so many of the problems that we're now seeing because of the government. And it's the complete disconnect between these promises that they're making or have made. I mean, this is the problem with almost everything that the government is doing. So they made all these commitments based on the fantasy economics. The fantasy economics is fantasy economics. They are not getting the tax receipts that they thought they were going to get. Their borrowing costs are stealing more of their ability to spend in all kinds of areas. They are putting barriers up instead of tearing barriers down, so stuff isn't happening, which is why, as I say, they make a promise on small boats numbers, those promises don't come to fruition. They make promises on house building numbers, those promises don't come to fruition. And they're making promise on defence spending. I have little confidence they will actually have the money to do it. And the other problem, of course, and we saw this with their failed attempt to put a tiny reduction in the welfare bill, their backbenchers are holding the front bench to ransom. And I mean, frankly, these left-wingers that riddle the Labour backbenches, there are a number of really good people, the number of people who have either veterans, they've had military backgrounds, or they're passionate about the military, and I have a huge respect for those individuals. But the bulk of the Labour Party basically want to spend money on welfare. You saw the joy when Rachel Reeves basically stood up and said she's going to spend billions of taxpayers' money on people who are not in work and often are choosing not to be in work at a time when we have genuine security threats. We know there's a threat from China. We've known that for a very, very long time. We know there's a threat from Russia. We've seen that from a very, very long time. We know there's threats from Iran. We've seen that for a long time. And there are other threats that will be emerging over time. The first job of government is to defend the nation, and this government is falling short on that promise.
And on your brief of house building, I mean, do you think there is any chance of Labour hitting the 1.5 million?
No chance whatsoever. There is zero. There are very few things that are certain in politics, but this is one of them. Right. They are nowhere near doing the things that will make that a possibility. The number of houses, and again, it's where their narrative and reality is completely odd. Steve Reed stands at the dispatch box and says, the Tories failed to build houses. We built more houses in our last year of government than they have. So the numbers are going down, not up. They're also putting a whole load of additional hurdles onto house building and making it more expensive, more bureaucratic, more burdensome. They are creating this dark cloud over the whole British business sector. They won't scrap stamp duty. They had a real opportunity to ease the tax burden on homeowners and people thinking of buying and selling properties. What do? They ramped up the taxes. Which is going to stagnate the market. So stuff isn't selling, stuff isn't being built, and they are living in cloud cuckoo land. Literally no one, I talk to the sector a lot, no one at all believes they're going to build 1.5 million houses, not even close. And yet, they think that wanting it harder is the same as actually doing something to get it done. And again, who's really suffering? It's the people trying to get onto the housing ladder. It's those hardworking young people who want to start a family but are unable to do so because they don't have the security of tenure that they would like. They're killing the private rental sector. So the bottom line is, unless you're in this very, very narrow band of people who can get social housing, if you're a hardworking family and you're earning okay money, but you're certainly not wealthy, you're not poor enough to be supported by the state, but you're certainly not rich enough at the moment to get on the housing ladder. You haven't even got the private rented sector as a stepping stone because they're killing that. And again, it's they're hurting all the wrong people, and it is so frustrating.
Because other European democracies are in a pretty miserable state. I mean, does part of you ever think maybe this is as good as it gets, this level of bouncing along 1% growth? Or does Britain have an option where we're actually able to grow like international economies?
Yeah, there is always an option. And I know at party conference there were some people mocking us because we really celebrated the time of Margaret Thatcher. Look, I'm a Thatcherite. Yeah. I'm a Thatcherite Reaganite conservative. Yeah, and in the late 1970s, when Margaret Thatcher was first became leader of the opposition, and ultimately then went on to become Prime Minister in 79, the consensus was our best years are behind us. We used to be this imperial power, we're not anymore. We used to be this shipbuilding power, we're not anymore. We used to be this manufacturing power, we're not anymore. Best thing is manage decline, let's wrap ourselves up in the warm blanket of socialism and just curl up and gently wither and die. And Keith Joseph and Margaret Thatcher and others basically said, no, screw that. We are not just going to, we're not going to go down without a fight. What did she do? She deregulated. She lowered tax. She invested in defence. She built really strong partnerships with America and other like-minded countries to make sure there was a real coalition of support for liberty, democracy, lower taxes, more vibrant economies. All things which the generation of politicians, cross-party, the generation of politicians before her said was impossible. And yet, and this for me, this is why I'm a conservative. I was born in 1969, so I was 10, nearly 10, when the 79 election was held. So I just remember the whole winter of discontent. I remember power cuts. I remember everything just being a bit rubbish. And then fast forward 10 years, by the time I'm 20, the UK is a fundamentally different place. We once again are an economic powerhouse. We're a financial services powerhouse. We've totally reinvented ourselves. We are respected around the world. So my takeaway from that is, if you allow yourselves to be talked into decline, then decline is in fact inevitable. But if you refuse to have your country talked down, then you can actually do something about it. And when I was at the Foreign Office, one of the things that I banned when I was at the Foreign Office was the phrase "deeply concerned." So we used to keep putting out press releases saying, "Oh, the UK is deeply concerned about X, Y, and Z." And I said, "Stop saying how we feel. We're not spectators. We're not in the commentary box. We're players on the field. So, if something is happening, instead of telling people we're deeply concerned about it, let's tell them what we're actually doing about it. Let's stop saying what we feel and start saying what we're doing." Now, at the moment, we've got a government that doesn't understand the difference, which is why we're in so much trouble. The Conservative Party, like Kemi and the people that share this shadow cabinet table with her and with me, we are about getting stuff done. And the proof is in the pudding. As I say, I'll keep going back to it because it's in the news today. The immigration figures. You can talk about it, or you can do something about it. Eddie Rama, the Prime Minister of Albania, he's a big fella, much bigger than me, and a tough guy. Being a politician in Albania is not easy. And one of the things that he said is, there's no point in talking tough. You got to be tough. And that very much reminds me of that kind of Reaganite, Thatcherite kind of philosophy, and I see that around this table here.
Brilliant. And just lastly, you obviously jumped back into frontline politics.
Yeah.
What was the moment where you thought it's time to get back into the pitch?
Well, look, I'd been Home Secretary, I'd been Foreign Secretary. We had a really, really bruising general election. I jumped straight into a leadership campaign, which was exhausting, and when I didn't get it, and then I realised, and it was a real eye-opener. So I got knocked out just after conference, and then I watched Rob and Kemi go touring around the country, doing more of the same for another few weeks. And I was at home, and I was turned around to Susie, and I just said, you know what, I need a breather. I've been at sprint pace. I've been at sprint pace for a very, 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 very long time. And I need a breather. And that's exactly what I said to Kemi and Rob before I knew who was going to win. I said to both of them, look, it's nothing personal to either of you. I need a breather. I had that chance to have a bit of a breather, and Kemi, the chief whip, and Kemi kind of did a pincer movement. And part of the sales pitch was that the Conservatives have always been at our best when we've had a compelling offer to young people. And having the opportunity to get a home of your own has always been part of our successful formula. And so Kemi was very, very keen that I led the charge on that. And we've got a fantastic ministerial team, very, very, very experienced in local government and a number of other things. And also the icing on the cake was, plus you get to go toe to toe with Angela Rayner. And you're like, oh. And then I didn't even get one set of opposition questions. I didn't even get one set of oral questions before she had to resign, because apparently she,
Do you think she'll be back?
I struggle to believe she won't.
Yeah.
And look, she messed up really, really badly. And in a normal universe, that would have written her off. But look at who she's competing with. And I've always had a lot of time for Angela Rayner. She's very, very smart. I think the Labour Party, ironically enough, the party of working people, the party of the sisterhood, respects women and that kind of stuff. It's been the Labour Party that have underestimated her at every turn. Keir Starmer particularly. Remember the last time he tried to fire her, he ended up accidentally giving her a promotion and more responsibility. Yeah. So the Labour Party have underestimated her at every stage. I suspect they'll do so again. I think she's formidable. Yeah. I think she's very much formidable. And so I imagine that she'll have a crack at coming back. Whether she's successful or not, who is to say? I don't think it will help. I actually think Labour's future is now set. They've got a reputation for dishonesty. Any idea that it's a party of integrity is way out the window now. Yeah. They don't have a plan for the country, and they're not going to create one between now and the next general election. So, they want to change leader. Yeah, who would blame them? I mean, the current guy is making such an awful go at it. I'd be amazed if he's still Prime Minister, taking the country into the next general election.
And the Chancellor as well.
Oh, they're bound together. As Kemi said yesterday, the only reason she is still in the job is because Starmer knows that if, like a number of other women in the Labour Party, he throws her under the bus, this time he's going with her. It's the only reason why she's still in the job. But also, you look at the alternatives, and it's kind of like meh. Which is why the Labour Party is shuffling around like zombies, because they've been caught out. They've been caught.